Hello and welcome to the Gothic Unicorn. This video is going up on St George's Day, and in keeping with my sort of little theme of doing alternative things to celebrate various holidays and important days, I thought about what I could do for St George's Day. The truth of the matter is, St George was a dragon slayer, and slaying dragons is not really something that I could see my miniature family condoning. So I decided that instead I'd make some dragon eggs. So today I'm going to show you how to make a dragon egg and how to make a basket that can be used for holding one of these eggs, but also for any other purpose that you can think of. So let's get on with it. As the basis for my dragon eggs, I'm using these small polystyrene eggs. Now, these are usually sold around about Easter time for decorating. This is a little over an inch in height, and I figure it would be a suitable size for a dragon's egg because, well, dragons are going to be pretty large, aren't they? So the eggs are going to be pretty big, so I figure it'll work. Now, often when working with polystyrene shapes, they're decorated with sequins. Now, sequins would be great, but I think they're going to be a bit on the rigid side. And also, normally when you use sequins, you attach them using sequin pins. I've got some here. Now, if you're doing a bigger piece for a Christmas decoration or something like that, that's not a problem. But at this scale, it's going to leave me with a lot of little lumps and bumps all over the surface of my egg. So I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to make scales out of kitchen foil and a small hole punch. This one is somewhere in the region of, I think, about 6mm. I just decided that it was a suitable scale, and then I'm going to glue these onto the egg. Now, to vary the piece, because obviously it would just be silver if I did it as it was, I am going to use some of my Pro markers, which are an alcohol-based ink, to colour the foil before I punch the shapes out. The only thing I will say about doing this is to give the ink plenty of time to dry before you start punching, because otherwise you're just going to smear it. Obviously, you can use almost anything as long as it will dry on the foil. You could paint it with paint. You could paint it with paint afterwards. But I find that the alcohol-based ink works really, really well, and it still allows the shine to come through, which means that you still get a metallic looking egg. Now, I've got all my little scales punched out in a variety of colours. I've got quite a few silver still in there, but then I've got some different colours in there that I'm going to do sort of randomly, I hope, because doing random is very difficult. I've also got some glue on my bit of cardboard here, and I've got a cocktail stick for applying it. And I'm going to start from the bottom, which on this one has got a rather interesting looking stain. And I'm just going to take a bit of glue on the end of this, and I'm going to pick up, oh, it's a green one. And I'm just going to put it in place at the base. Now, until the glue sets, you will run the risk of moving things around, but that is as simple as it gets. So you just build up the layers of scales, and you do that by picking up the scales with a bit of glue on the cocktail stick, spreading the glue about, and then putting each one overlapping the previous. Now, as you can see, that looks quite odd at the moment. I'm going to build it up a bit more, and then I'll show you again how you actually build up your layers of scale. Now, as you can see, I've added quite a few scales to my egg, And hopefully you can see a bit easier now how you build up the pattern. You simply pick up a scale, done here, put a bit of glue on the back, and then pop it so that it overlaps those below and alongside it. And that's as simple as it is. It is just a case of repeating this process in rings around the egg until it's covered. Right, so to finish it off, I'm using the pointed end of the egg, and I'm just going to put some glue on a last little scale, and I'm just going to pop that on the top to cover up the last remaining bits of the egg and visible bits of the original polystyrene egg, and also to cover up all the scales that are around it. And there we have my finished dragon's egg. At this stage, now that your egg is covered in scales, you can add a coat of a varnish just to seal everything in place. What I would recommend is that you test whatever you intend to put over the top on a scrap of foil that has been coloured with any medium that you've used to colour the scales, just to make sure that it's not going to run. It's just a little thing, but you know, if you want to seal it, better to be safe than sorry. You could also obviously add a dirty layer to it. This would take a nice dirty wash quite well, and that would highlight the edges of the scales quite well, but I think I'm going to leave mine as it is. Now you can of course finish the dragon's eggs however you want. With this one I've gone for a random look with some quite primary coloured scales, but this one I've used a plum colour that was actually plum, even though it's come out a lot paler on the foil, and I've made actual stripes. You could do it in any colour you wanted, any pattern you wanted. You could put anything you wanted on it. If you can work it out, you can work out a pattern. You could write something on it even. But this is just to show you that the sky is the limit for decorating your dragon's eggs. Now that we have our dragon's egg completed, we need somewhere for it to sit. Now you could make a little stand using a suitably sized bottle top, if you've got anything, or you could even make a nest, but I'm going to make a basket to stand at least one of my eggs in. And so to do that, I'm going to use some of this cardstock which I've got lying about, which is it's black. It's just some that I use for lots of random things around the craft room. I'm going to use my 1-inch hole punch, and I'm going to use some garden twine. This is a nice jute twine, so it's quite rough and ready, but it's going to be perfect for this purpose. Begun by punching out 4 of the 1-inch circles and also cutting a strip which is 1/2 inch wide. The length of it is irrelevant as long as it is long enough to go around the circle. So I'm going to start with a bit of glue by sticking these together. That is the first thing, is I'm going to make a little stack of all of these, and I'm going to glue them together and let them dry. Don't need a lot of glue. This is just so that we've got something to glue our strip to in a moment. What I'm going to do with that is I am just going to add a peg to it just to hold it in place while it dries. Once the glue has dried, I'm going to remove that. We're going to make the basis for our basket, and I'm doing that with this strip, and I'm adding a bit of glue to the outside edge. Now you can see that. Now this is a very thick card, which is important. You can do it with thicker stuff, but it needs to be pliable. All I'm going to do is I am literally going to sit here and hold this until it is dry. Now, this is going to take a while. And it's moving because I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing because I'm talking to you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until this bit dries, and then I'm going to feed this all the way around, gluing it in place as it goes. Around the outside, obviously, not up the side. And then I will overlap it at that end, but I'll show you that in a moment. I've got to the start again, to the overlap piece. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue down the edge of here. Actually, I've put rather more than I need, but I can wipe it off. And let's put a bit more on there. And again, I need to now hold this in place until everything is dry. Lots of drying time involved in this. Now that my little cardboard base piece is dry, I'm going to start adding the basket. Now, you can do a proper wound around the bottom, cover the bottom basket. I have done this in the past, but for ease, I'm actually going to just do around the edges. It can make it sit better if nothing else, but it certainly makes it easier for basket making. So this is a cheats basket, really. Now, I've cut quite a long piece of my jute twine, and I'm going to dip the end into some glue, which is just off here. Now, this is a messy procedure, which is why my non-stick mat has made an appearance. What I'm going to do with this end piece is I'm going to go somewhere around near where my join is, and I'm going to attach the string. Now, what I then need to do is I need to get my little toothpick and start going around the cardboard base, for want of a better phrase, so that all of the string gets stuck down. Now, I tend to do this in pieces because, especially with the first round, because I want to make sure that it actually takes. So I like to put my glue out a while before I'm going to use it, because then it goes a little bit tackier. It's one of the things I like most about this glue, is how thick and tacky it goes while you're working with it. And it does make it easier when sticking things down. Right. So all I'm doing is working my way around the base, attaching the glue until I get back to where I started. At this point, I'm just going to put a bit more glue on here. You sort of whip it up and over, and you start going round again, and you carry on like that until you've reached the top of the cardboard. Now that I've reached the top of my cardboard form, what I want to do is put this last ring around and just cover that last of that black card. It won't really be visible, but if you were doing this for something other than what I am, it might be. So I'm just making sure that the glue goes onto the top edge of the card, as well as onto the lower piece of string. And I'll just take that all the way around like that. And obviously I can clean the extra glue from inside in a moment, but I'm just going to gently feed this round, and stick this into place. Now I'm going to trim the end of this off, move that out of the way, and I'm going to get a good dollop of glue and work that into the end, and then work that down onto the edge of the basket. You can, if you want to do something that the top is going to be particularly visible, you can make a fancier top, but because of how I'm going to use this, I think this is going to work quite well. Now this needs to dry because I've had to use quite a lot of glue, but when it has dried, I will show you how I'm going to dress it to put the egg in. To dress the basket to receive the dragon's egg, I'm going to use some fake straw. Now, I made this firstly for my recent cages video, but it seemed like just the right thing to have sticking out around the edges. And what it is I take a piece of ordinary copier paper and a straw coloured alcohol marker. In this case, this is actually, I think, called something like Buttercup. And then I cut very, very fine slithers off the edge of it. Now, because it's copier paper and alcohol ink, it goes through, so it becomes double-sided without any extra work. And it gives me some quite nice, thin, fake straw. Now I'm going to cut this down and then I'm going to glue it around the edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this piece that I picked up, I'm going to cut it into a few pieces because I don't need massive pieces hanging out. And I'm going to get my cocktail stick and glue, and I'm going to put a bit of glue on the inside here. And I'm going to start attaching the bits of straw to the glue. So what I want to make it look like it's sticking out randomly. And of course it's sticking to my fingers, but hey ho, when don't we get glue all over our fingers? Now I'm going to carry this on around the outside, and I'm going to bend it over and such like, so that it looks a bit more natural, and then it'll be ready for the egg. I have finished applying the straw, and all that remains now is to put my dragon's egg into its basket. And as you can see, it now has the sort of look that I wanted, which is that somebody has filled the basket with straw to provide a nice little bed for the egg. And I think that looks pretty good. So here we have my finished dragon eggs and my easy basket for holding one of them. Obviously I made the basket to suit the size of my eggs, but this basket could be done to any size that you wanted for whatever purpose you decided to use it for. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please like, comment and subscribe. And until next time, bye!